The Bobby O Show.
Welcome to the Bobby O Show. My name is Bob O'Potzner. I'm looking forward to the show I have today with one of my very favorite guests, who's been on the show the most of any other guest, and also one of my favorite friends, a phenomenal lady named Michelle Phillips, who we're going to introduce today and have a nice conversation as part of our 6 or 7 part series talking about happiness as a habit, energizing oneself, and that kind of thing. But before I get to that, I've decided I want to point out some of the people in the pictures that you saw at the start of the show. I'm going to do one today. The gentleman with the symbols is Herb Savitt, who's a lawyer from Connecticut, now retired. And the blue and white he's wearing, it's because what he does is when the Duke basketball team has away games, they need people to come and join the band. And he plays in the band. That picture is shown in Madison Square Garden. He's a phenomenal guy. And he's someone who throughout his life has exhibited happiness being a habit. Michelle Phillips, welcome.
Hello, Bobby O. I have to say, watching your opening just makes me smile. I love it. The whole opening just makes me smile. So you're starting the happiness tone right off the bat.
Well, thank you very much. Christina Britton, who is actually going for a master's degree in psychology as a clinical psychologist, created that for me. She did a really nice job and really exuded good pleasure. I could never have done that. I needed someone who was good at that. Today's show, we talked about, and what I do in all shows, and Michelle and I do prep for each show, although we end up spending about an hour for preparation, of which 55 minutes is kind of shooting the you-know-what and talking, and the other part is deciding what we want to talk about. And we thought today a good topic to focus upon with respect to our book, Happiness is a Habit, is that, sometimes there's negativity that strikes us in our lives. And no one would ever exist and would ever believe that every single day, even for someone as happy and as energetic and vibrant as Michelle is, but sometimes things happen. And we want to talk a little bit about how to deal with those things, how to understand it's normal to have negativity, and then go on from there, as Michelle and I often do, just meander into wonderful thoughts, hoping to get people who watch the show today feel a little bit better after the show than they did before the show. How's that, Michelle, for a little lead in for this?
I'm ready. Do you want me to just go, or do you have a question?
You were born ready. I want you to just take it where you want to go. I've got comments, Bobby O. So just since you were born ready and so was I, take it and let's go from there.
So we always have our pre-call, Bobby, before we do the show. And we started talking about, I was doing some posts on Facebook. I am known as the light lady, positivity, optimism. But in order to have positive, you have to have negative. And some people kind of look at me and say, oh, your life is perfect, or you never have any problems. And it's so far from the truth. Negativity is normal. Negative is normal, right? We live in a universe of opposites, right? Positive and negative, up and down, dark and light. So to think that negativity escapes anyone is just ridiculous. But the key is knowing that negativity is normal, and then knowing the steps and having the coping skills to manage, to process the negativity. And in this day and age, we suffer from believing our lives are terrible, when in reality, we've never in the history of man had lived with such luxuries. But yet we think our lives are bad. So again, it's out of proportion. So realizing, what's going right, where's the negativity, and how we view it, the lens in which we view it makes all the difference.
Michelle, you and I have had a connection of some type since the day we met at the airport many years ago. But we've always talked about positive things and that kind of thing. And I watched your posts and I try to listen to some of your podcasts. But you had a post on Facebook that struck me even more than usual. And we always leave these conversations like, boy, she taught me something today, or hopefully I taught you something along the way in our conversations. But you had a post we had talked about the fact that you were having a bad day, and you were talking about some negativity in your life in one of the posts, and it struck me like another layer of the onion. Listening about that, and I don't know if you want to talk about some of the few things you mentioned or not, but the way you talked about some negative things that you've had, and then the way you talked about how you yourself work through those, I thought might be something worth, touching today.
Yeah, thank you. I have a 5-step process, but to say that negative thoughts, fear, these all come to me just like anybody else, right? Our brains are set up to protect us. So you have scary thoughts, negative thoughts, but then my first step is assuming responsibility. I might not be responsible that this scary thought or this negative thought entered my mind, but I take responsibility on whether I decide to focus on it and go down that scary rabbit hole, or if I decide to shift. And the other day I found I've been working on a book for about 2 years now, my next book, and I came across the first draft that was labeled November 2022, and I thought, oh my gosh, why is this taking so long? What's wrong with so I started all the negative, beating myself up. And it's again, every thought is an electromagnetic unit of energy that gathers another thought just like it. And before you know it, I was feeling terrible. And really, my life is good. So again, it's that taking responsibility that yes, these thoughts are real. And yes, it's taken me 2 years, well, almost 2 years, I'm exaggerating. But what do I choose to focus on? So then I know I have to break the energy. So I think I've done a couple posts, Bobby, but what I did that day was I went outside, I walked barefoot in the grass, I looked up at the sky, and I was able to ground myself. Gratitude, they call it a gratitude practice because it takes practice. And again, I keep coming back to, we have the most luxuries ever, and yet we still find ourselves being in these unsatisfied states. So number one, assuming responsibility. And then what are your habits? What are your coping skills to get you out of that? So I'll stop there and we can continue the conversation. But just because I preach this doesn't mean I never have a negative thought or a bad day.
You may recall a phone call we had a little bit ago, Michelle, where you were driving on the LIE, Long Island Expressway, and she lives on Long Island. And I said, Michelle, the next time you have road rage, which we all have once in a while, please give me a call because I want to hear you dealing with that. And we laughed because in our most recent phone call, someone did cut you off, and it was, the way you dealt with the problem was great. As a practicing attorney, I have a lot of pressure, as do any of us, if we want to do our professions the right way. And we all strive, at least I do, to be almost perfect, right? We think like we have people relying upon us, their lives are in our hand. No one's going to die from what I do. I'm not a doctor, but people are relying upon what I do for them. And Michelle, what you do in your speaking tours. But we can't ever be perfect. We can strive to be as good as we can be. And sometimes I'll be frustrated saying, darn it, I prepared for that closing argument and I spent hours doing it. And then you do it and you say, there's one more thing I could have done. There's always one more thing you could do. If you're a landscaper, you could do that one more plant, And so one thing I find that I have to deal with sometimes is we can't be perfect. I have a client who once said to me, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. So we all have to deal with these kinds of things. And I don't know if what I just said to you makes sense to you, Michelle, and how you might deal with some of those issues.
And I want to talk about the way what I admire about you, Bobbio, is at the end of the day, your intention is always service. So you're a lawyer, you deal with divorces, people fighting, over whatever it is, right? When you think of law, you're defending, right? You have to defend someone. But yet, even though you might be on the defense for someone, your ultimate intention is to be of service. And that's the optimistic spin. That's another one of my steps in helping you work on negativity, because you could just go down the negative rabbit hole. This one's fighting this one's fighting for that. But you say, what's the best thing I could do for my client? How can I be of service? And yes, there's always something, Monday morning quarterback that you say, I could have done this or should have done that. But knowing that you come to every client with that intention of service is what makes you so good at what you do. And almost, if I want to flip this for our listeners or viewers, is are we of service to ourselves? Does beating ourselves up, does dwelling on the negativity, do any of those things, are they being of service? No. If beating ourselves up worked, what's the saying? We'd all be rich, wealthy, and living on a yacht somewhere. So, realizing that to be of service to yourself is one of the greatest things you could do.
One thing I try to do in making myself be the best that I can be, other than reading Happiness is a Habit, one chapter every day, other than that, I try to know what I don't know. And I think what makes someone good in their profession or whatever they do is to know, well, I'm good at this, but what am I not good at? And I had a case, and I'll be very discreet about what I say, but it was a case in which the parties, it was a divorce case. The parties lost a child in a very tragic event that happened in Connecticut several years ago. You could probably guess what I'm referring to. And I decided with the other attorney, we did this case in what they call a collaborative fashion, which is a methodology of trying to be a more peaceful divorce process. And we decided, and I suggested to the other lawyer, we should have a mental health professional with us at every single meeting we have, because I know there's going to be a lot of emotion and I can't handle that as a professional. So we brought this expert in who came to every meeting, and the case worked out ultimately in the end. But having someone who was not of the lawyer mental set, but rather of a psychological perspective helped us, because I will tell you, every single meeting, at least one person cried. And that's how I dealt with the thing that I thought was beyond my expertise in handling, which was to bring a mental health professional in to help out. Thoughts?
Again, all these things are intertwined. Intertwined, is that the word? It's when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And you're always willing to learn, So I always say I am a teacher and a student at the same time, and so are you, right? You know the law, but you also know what you don't know. So life is bringing us lessons, and if anything negative shows up in your life, it's there to teach you something. I guarantee you that. Every disappointment, every setback, every failure, if you're willing to be the student, you will find the solution. If you just think, oh, bad things always happen to me, your mindset is I can never get ahead, then that cycle repeats and repeats. And those are the people that say, oh, if it's not one thing, it's another. But when you're the student, you realize, this failure, this setback, and I mean, you're talking about losing a child is one of the most, horrible things I wouldn't wish on anybody. But how do I move forward from this? What can I learn from this? How can I be going forward? And constantly putting yourself in the role of the student.
Michelle, you will know that in our conversations in the pre-prep, we always say we're going to raise things we never talked about in the pre-prep because that's who we are. This morning, and I saw this thing on the wall, I brought someone to a cancer clinic this morning, and I saw on the wall of this clinic an amazing statement that fits, I think, right in to this topic. I put my glass on so I could read it. And it says, what cancer cannot do. Cancer is so limited. It cannot cripple love. It cannot shatter hope. It cannot corrode faith. It cannot destroy peace. It cannot kill friendship. It cannot suppress memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot invade the soul. It cannot steal eternal life. It cannot conquer the spirit. Author unknown. Man, I shouldn't say man. Michelle, I saw that thing and I had to take a picture of it, right? I keep my quotations books. I got my research. Yeah. I took a picture because that statement is, I think, what we're talking about. Because, I mean, think about, there can't be too many more negative things to deal with if you know someone is going through cancer, whatever. But to see that comment just blew me away. So I'm going to toss it to you, Michelle, and let you speak about anything I just read to you. Is that amazing?
Yeah. So I love what you're doing too. It's taking, the teachers are everywhere, right? The teacher for you was on the wall in that clinic today, right? The lessons are everywhere. The teachers are everywhere if you're open to them. And, again, sometimes we think, what is the old quote I love? If everybody took their problems and threw them in a pile, you'd want your problems back because your problems look really good compared to other people's problems. So back in 1997, I went to get certified in this self-esteem and peak performance work from Jack Canfield, the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And I met one of my dearest friends who ended up living, we were in Santa Barbara. He lived in New Jersey, but he had just been diagnosed with a brain tumor. So he had had brain surgery and he had lost his vision, probably 70% of his vision. And he was one of my greatest teachers. He was the most positive, most loving, like all those things you said in that list. He didn't let cancer take any of those from him. And we went on to do seminars together. We became wonderful friends. And he taught me so much. He lived his life every second out loud, regardless of the negative circumstances that were going on in his body. And he was just a testament to all those things you just read.
Yeah, and I think that thing on the wall, which really moved me, and I'm sure moved you as well. It's part of the fact that we have to. Irma Bombeck once wrote a book about don't tell. I can't say the words that she used, but it was a book about essentially dealing with what you have to do and knowing that sometimes the milk prices are too expensive, gasoline costs too much money.
Right.
I mean, what are the real issues? We have so many important issues in our society. Is that really that important? Someone the other day said to me, I just got a raise of X%, but it costs more at the grocery store. And I said, well, wait a minute. A equals B. If we're going to pay the workers at the grocery store more money, there are going to be costs that are higher. And I think we have to stop and say, and I think right now our society is too much meism. And it's got to be more about what's the big picture? What's the big picture that's got to be dealt with?
It's putting everything into perspective so it feels right with your soul, so to speak, right? It was just tax season. So I have to pay my taxes. I could wish I didn't have to pay my taxes, but when you make a decent living, you have to pay taxes. So again, there's 4 seasons in the year, right? Winter, summer, spring, and fall. And there's seasons of our lives. Right. So like what you're saying is realizing it can't always be spring and summer. We can't always be in the blooming section of life. Sometimes we're in the winter of our life. Sometimes, there's a time to laugh and a time to cry. So it's realizing that when you're in the time to cry, I just lost my dear sweet dad in November. When you're in the mourning, that's part of life. But knowing that stage is a season. It's not who you are. So knowing that you can handle the ups and downs of your life and not focusing so much on it shouldn't be this, it shouldn't be that, prices are too high. It is what it is. But how do I navigate what I've been given? And one of my favorite things to get freedom is to focus on what you control. I don't control the price of gas. I control who I vote for. I control if I, participate in my local elections. So if I put my energy where I control if I drive a friend to the cancer clinic or if I get a mediator to come into my case where there's difficult emotions. When I put my energy where I have control, I feel better. So there's all these ways to navigate negativity without eradicating it. We can't eradicate it. There will always be something negative in the world, in the planet. It can't be otherwise. You can't have the sun without the moon.
That's correct. I like to read, and by the way, all the books behind me are hardcovers, except for Happiness is a Habit. Most of my books almost all of them are hardcovers, and I've read about 80%. I'm a little bit behind, but a book I'm reading now is from one of my favorite TV personalities, Jen Psaki, who wrote a book called Say More. She is the lady who was the press secretary for President Biden. She worked in the Obama administration. She worked in the State Department, and now she's on MSNBC. And she's just so real on TV. And in her book, I'm going to read this quote. And this quote is one that is not surprising Michelle with. I did talk to her about it. She said in her book on page 24, there's a famous quote often attributed to Maya Angelou, Angelou, that captures this point. Quote, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Michelle?
Yeah, these are so good. You know, and I want that to really wash over people. Think about that. And if we relate this to the negativity conversation we're having, sometimes our friends are going through things that we can't fix. And I believe sometimes we think we have to fix everything. We have to fix all the injustices and all the wrongs in the world. But people remember how you make them feel. So if someone that in your life is going through a hard time and you just sit with them, you just call them, you just let them know you're thinking about them. It's how you make them feel. Years ago, I went to the Jack Canfield seminar. It's another Jack Canfield story. And this beautiful man got on stage and he gave this concert all about affirmations and positivity. 10 years later, I hired him to come to one of my events. And I said to him, I have no idea what you sang that night, but I remember how you made me feel. So, and that's where, Bobby, that's where you're so good at bringing people together, making them feel special, making them feel important, and realizing that there's more to it than fixing the problem or making it go away.
Yeah, I have a very good friend. I have another friend besides you, Michelle. Can you believe that?
You have lots of friends because you're a very good man. You're a mensch, Bobbio.
Thank you. That means a lot. And one day she was telling me about the problems that she was having. And I started to try to give her some advice. I said, stop. I really didn't tell you for you to fix the problem. I just told you so you would listen, because I knew that you would listen sincerely to what I had to say. So don't feel like you always have to solve the problem. Just listening is a very good problem helper, shall we say.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to, what do the people need? What does the person that you're dealing with need from you? And that's one of the questions I used to keep. I don't have it. I used to keep it on my desk. It's gone someplace. But it says, I had a piece of paper on my desk that said, what does this person need from me right now? So as I'm on phone calls or I'm talking to my clients or my friends, I want to think about what do they need from me right now? And those kind words. And again, when negative things happen, negative is normal. That's one of my sayings. Negative is normal. In every part of this planet, there are positives and negatives, and I get to choose what I focus on. Do I want to focus on the potholes, or do I want to focus on this beautiful roadway system we have and the beautiful blue sky, and knowing that there's way more going right in the world? So putting your problems into perspective, taking action where you have control, and then doing something every day, I always say, that motivates, educates, or inspires you. And when you can't get out of your own negative rut, call a friend like Bobby O to say, I need you to listen to me sincerely. I need you to help me see this another way.
Former Duke basketball coach, and we all know I'm a big Duke and Yale basketball fan, and Coach K used to always say, everybody runs his or her own race. Everybody runs his or her own race. So someone shouldn't look at Michelle and say, oh my God, she's so fit and I'm 30 pounds overweight. I got to look like Michelle. No. You got to be the best that you can be. And Michelle will be the best that she can be. And if everyone's the best that they can be, then we have a better world. Michelle, I want to tie into Happiness is a Habit because one of my favorite chapters, and we can all pick up our book, all of our viewers, and look at chapter number 36, entitled Do Something Kind. I think it's one of my favorite chapters of your book, and I thought you might want to talk a little bit about, we have a little less than 5 minutes to go, and I do want to get into your new book a little bit, but talk about Do Something Kind. How is that something that is part and parcel of Happiness is a Habit?
So my book, Happiness is a Habit, is 44 habits to help you be more mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally healthy. And kindness is just, it's always, it's a gift to the receiver and the giver. So I always look to do things that are kind. And the beautiful thing is it doesn't have to cost anything. I literally, if I open my desk drawer here, I keep all these stickers in my drawer because I'm always sending greeting cards with little stickers and little notes in them, because I just know what it's like in today's day and age when people don't always send old-fashioned cards. Holding the door, I practice my smiling. I mean, that's how I met you, right? We just happened to be in an airport terminal together, and I'm open to meeting new people, because when you give the kindness away, it comes back to you. And sometimes I just like sprinkling change on playgrounds. because I'm not there when the kids find them, but I just know, oh my gosh, some little kid's going to come and go, oh my gosh, a nickel, a quarter, a dime, and get so excited. And then I get the benefit. So it's a gift that gives both ways.
Yeah, it's a very important piece of the puzzle. I know you're working, and we're going to do a show next month. We're doing every more or less 4 to 6 weeks. I know you're working on another book, which I'm looking forward to reading. And it's a book you started, I think, in 2001, 25 years ago. I'm teasing. But when you think about any book that one writes, any songwriter who writes songs, it doesn't just happen today. It happens as you develop in your life. Tell me a little bit about the book, if you can, that you're writing. We have a couple minutes left. And I want to ask you what it's like to write a second book, which I'm sure is much harder than writing a first book.
Yeah. So my first book, Happiness is a Habit, is I want you to practice your habits mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And when you do this, you're just in better alignment with your life. And the more I practiced my own teaching, the higher my energy levels got, the easier my life got. I started having what I called magic carpet days. So my next book is about how to create that magic in your life, how to tune yourself to the energy of the universe so that your days are easier, your life is full with more joy, fun. And I just like to use the word magic because I don't think we use it enough. But really navigating your emotions. So again, this book will take it to a deeper level. I know we're almost out of time, so that's a little teaser. So that book will be coming out shortly. My new video series is out on this book. So, you can connect with me, but I always just appreciate you having me on the show, Bobby.
Is it Lion King? Maybe I have a different show where they're on the magic carpet ride and
Aladdin. It must be Aladdin.
Aladdin. Okay, Aladdin. Okay, sorry. Yeah. And so as you're telling me this story, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I had the wrong show. I'm sorry, but it's Aladdin, and the magic carpet ride is all about enjoyment. We have a minute left, and so I'd like to give you the last word because I have so much regard for you, and you're such a wonderful person. What's your thought for the day, beyond what we've talked about today? Do you have a thought that you want to leave the audience with today, or leave me with today? Maybe it's just...
Well, we're on the magic topic, so magic is real. Like, we've taken the magic out of our lives. If everything isn't proven or studied, or I believe in science, I believe in research, I get that, I'm there. But I also want to bring the magic, the spirituality, the things that we don't, understand, that bring that into your life. So I actually just at 3:00 today, my newsletter is going out, and I'm asking all the people on my newsletter to just look for the magic in your life. Who shows up, what shows up, realize that it's perfectly orchestrated. Just as the universe is in perfect alignment, the stars and the sun, so is your life. So really look for the magic this weekend in your life.
I would add to that, there's a new invention. It's called a telephone. People are too much on texting and emailing, talk on the phone. Michelle Phillips, it's always a pleasure. I'm so very thankful that you surprised me at the airport. Got to be 10, 12 years ago. And we've been very special friends ever since.
Thank you for having me, Bobby.
Take care. Bye now. This has been Bobby O on The Bobby O Show.